Good evening. My name is Ajit Sachdeva, and I'm the Director of the Division of Education at the American College of Surgeons. I also have the distinct privilege and honor of co-chairing the steering committee of the American College of Surgeons Academy of Master Surgeon Educators, along with Dr. L.D. Britt. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this fireside chat, which is going to be amazingly exciting. We are really thrilled to have a distinguished speaker with us, Dr. Christopher Ellison, who is going to be introduced formally by Dr. Shabahang. I've gotten to know Dr. Ellison over the last several years through his enormous contributions to the college in a leadership role and to the academy. And he played a pivotal role during the COVID-19 pandemic in chairing a committee that was highly productive in looking at the impact of the pandemic on surgery residency training. He also co-chairs a new Blue Ribbon Committee, which I hope he'll talk about during the dialogue. And he is the current president of the American College of Surgeons. To moderate the session is Dr. Mo Shabahang, and he is a master surgeon educator as well. Both Dr. Ellison and Dr. Shabahang are members of the Academy, and Dr. Shabahang also chaired another committee of the Academy during the pandemic that led to the implementation of both the virtual fireside chats and the virtual grand rounds. Dr. Shabahang, during his day duties, serves as the chief surgeon and in charge of all surgical services in the WellSpan system. You see that displayed behind him on the screen. So Dr. Shabahang is going to run the session, and without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mo to take the session off. And thank you again, Dr. Ellison, for taking the time to do this fireside chat.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sachdeva. Appreciate it. And Caroline, I know we're going to display. So this is obviously our session tonight. We're excited to have Dr. Ellison as our guest. Next slide, please. Just some housekeeping. You can type any questions in the chat box. We would love for this to be interactive, so please feel free to type any questions you have for Dr. Ellison, and we will use those questions as we go along tonight. Next slide, please. And next slide. These are some of our distinguished guests from the past. All of these are recorded and on the Academy website, so please use them along with the grand rounds, the virtual grand rounds that have been done over the past several years. Next slide, please. Just as far as upcoming, we have another fireside chat on November 9th, and we have a grand rounds on December 14th. We're excited. We're going to be talking about coaching and surgical education, so I hope you join us for both of those. Very good. We can stop the slideshow. And Chris, it is a distinct honor for me to be interviewing you tonight as the president of the American College of Surgeons, and as someone who I've gotten to know for the past several years and have had the honor of co-publishing together and working on some of the committees together. So thank you so much for coming. For those who may not know, just in the way of introduction, we'll talk a little bit about Dr. Ellison's kind of journey, surgical journey. But Dr. Ellison was the chair of surgery at Ohio State University Department of Surgery from 2000 to 2013. He was interim dean at Ohio State University from 2014 to 2016, and presently he is the Robert Zollinger Professor Emeritus. So it is great to see you, Chris. Really, what I wanted to start with was your journey, your early on journey as your path to surgery, and what stood out to you on that path to becoming a surgeon.
Well, thank you, Mo, and I really appreciate your comments, and obviously I'm grateful for Dr. Sachdeeva and your invitation to participate in this fireside chat. So, all of our journeys are a little bit different, and mine was a little bit different than many people's. So I think, first of all, I was very fortunate to get into medical school. At the time I applied, I mean, there were so many applicants and so few spaces. I was just grateful to get into medical school, and coming out of the University of Wisconsin, I was well prepared. And I entered Marquette University at the time, which was in Milwaukee. And then a year later, it changed its name to Medical College of Wisconsin, that it is today. And so I was just delighted to get in there. And then when I applied to surgical residencies, I interviewed at 6 or 7. And the one that just stood out to me was the Ohio State University. And I obviously, that was a connection. My family, I'm the second generation academic surgeon. So my father was a surgeon at the Ohio State University, worked with Dr. Zollinger, described the Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. And, they were very prolific in terms of academic work and writing. And it was almost like a natural, going home type of a thing when I left Wisconsin and went back to Columbus and joined the residency there, and was able to be trained really by Dr. Carey and Dr. Zollinger. So Dr. Zollinger was still practicing a little bit. Dr. Carey at the time was the chair of the department, but both of them played little roles in my growing up. I mean, the Zollinger and the Ellison families were pretty close at, early on in my life. And so I knew the Zollingers. And then, we moved to Milwaukee when I was like 7 or 8, and then grew up in Wisconsin thereafter. But when my dad was the chair at Marquette, chair of surgery, and he had a very gifted surgery resident named Larry Carey. And Dr. Carey was his right-hand go-to person for many years. And Larry and I became very good friends. I worked in his lab. I did his statistics for him on some of his shock trauma things that he came back from Vietnam with. And, just was an amazing experience. And that's really what got me interested to go into medicine, was my interaction with him. And at University of Wisconsin, I studied, all kinds of things, but primarily psychology, believe it or not, and neurophysiology. So when I went to medical school, I was bent on becoming a neurosurgeon or a neurologist, one or the other. And as I went through my time in medical school, I gravitated towards GI, clearly. I mean, must have been something, that I was infused with as a child, that I was going to be a GI surgeon or whatever. But I loved every minute of it, and it came naturally to me. And so I went down that path, went to Ohio State, and then joined the residency there. So that's how I began my journey. Do you want me to keep going, or do you?
Yeah, please. I would love to kind of hear. I just want to kind of have a humanistic question as a father of several. Did you feel a lot of pressure? With obviously your father was very accomplished. Did you feel a lot of pressure to match the accomplishments?
Absolutely none. I mean, there was no pressure whatsoever.
So it was just a natural kind of
just I think that they both of my parents, I was an only child, they just wanted me to be happy and as successful as I could possibly be. So and I achieved both of those things. So in my opinion, so I think I just had so many wonderful opportunities along the way that it was absolutely incredible. I came to Ohio State. I worked in the residency. I did 2 years in the lab. I did the chief administrative resident, which was an extra year after your 5 years plus 2 years in lab, and that was an amazing year. I really learned how to operate in that chief administrative resident year. I did 700 operations. I was on call like all the time, and was very, very fortunate for that. And then joined the faculty at Ohio State, and obviously Dr. Carey, I became his right-hand person basically. And when he went on he took a sabbatical and went to France for 6 months, France and Germany, Europe, and he said, I want you to take over my practice. So I think I was 3 years out of my residency. And I took over his practice for that period of time. Dr. Zollinger was equally wonderful to work with. He really wasn't a nasty person at all. He was a gentleman. And if he didn't give you a hard time, in my opinion, he didn't care about you. So I think he was one of those really special people, very military oriented. Dr. Carey was Navy and Dr. Zollinger was Army, and they were both very organized, and it was a pleasure to work with them.
I may ask you each step of the way kind of what advice you would give. So to an early attending, to a young attending, what would your advice be from your experiences in the early years?
Well, I think a couple things. One, don't take on too much. In other words, by that, I mean, don't take on really difficult operations. I'm going to talk about clinical surgery mostly here. And I think that a lot of times a young surgeon, when they go into practice, they get pulled in a lot of different directions. And of all the residents that I've trained over the years at Ohio State, over 40 years, the residents, I've always given the residents the same advice. When they go into practice, they should focus on inguinal hernias, appendectomies, simple colon operations, some straightforward breast cases, and maybe a thyroid or two. But stay away from the pancreas. Don't do anything with the esophagus. And if you do colon operations, beware of low anterior operations because they're much more complicated. So that was my advice, that basically do common operations and do them very well, and then you'll build a reputation and get your skills set up, and then you can move on to other things after that. So I think that was a great piece of advice that I got and that I share with all the trainees, and I think it makes sense. I think the other thing is that as young academic surgeons, talking about getting pulled in 1,000 different directions, I mean, you'll be asked to write chapters, you'll be asked to jump in and review papers and write review papers, and really chapters are great, but they don't count for much on your CV. And you're much better off spending time. And I did not do this well, and that was writing grants. I mean, writing grants and doing lab research was not my strength. Clinical surgery was my strength, and education. So I think that you have to realize your strengths and your weaknesses and move on from there. But I think you have to decide what you're going to be. You're going to be a clinical surgeon, educator, or a researcher, and then focus on at least one of those areas, if not two. But it's very hard to be a successful surgical scientist and a clinician at the same time, given the complexity. That's my opinion, given the complexity of surgical science today. Anyway, those are some
Thank you. I appreciate that. And as you went along, wanted to ask a little bit about your career at that stage. Obviously, you're as a leader, you've been very involved in education, surgical education. But as in your career as a clinician, as you were rising, where did administrative work and surgical education, where did they come into that those clinical years?
Well, I think my first administrative role was really as the administrative chief resident. I made out the call schedules, and I really didn't like it too much, to be honest with you. But it did give me great access to know the residents and to work with them. But that was also, where I learned how to teach medical students. And unfortunately, at the time I was training, there was no formal education in how to become an educator. We basically emulated the people that taught us. So we used their techniques. We used, maybe even borrowed some of their lectures, some of the things that they told us, we told the students and the residents, and it was kind of on the job training, so to speak. But I think that today it's much more complicated, and obviously the college has put together great courses for surgeons as educators, residents as educators that I would highly recommend. But I was just grateful that I had an opportunity to work with fabulous residents and students at the institution I was at. And then, I think the thing that really got me into administration, so to speak, was the business practice of medicine and the quality parameters that we pay so much attention to in medicine. And that's really where I kind of jumped into administration. But that I was out 20 years before I really did that. So I focused on clinical surgery for 20 years, basically, and saw all kinds of things.
So the administrative part wasn't a progressive piece. It was really kind of a sudden.
Well, I think, you go through these opportunities presented themselves. So I had, you are a respected leader in an organization because you're a capable surgeon, you have good quality outcomes, and you're highly regarded by the organization. And that puts you in line to be considered for leadership positions. So I can tell you, one of the best things that happened to me is that I left the university after 4 years. I left the Ohio State University after 4 years. Dr. Carey went in to be the medical director at Grant Medical Center, which is a large community hospital, level 1 trauma center. And he asked me if I wanted to go with him. And I said, absolutely. So I was ready to do something different. And so I went. And, before I left, I met with the dean and I said, I hope to come back someday, but I really need to do something different. And so I think that everybody's going to have that opportunity to try something new, I think, during their career. And I would encourage people to do it if they do have that opportunity. And why it was so good for me is it allowed me to learn community practice.
How many years were you there for?
I was there for, 7 years.
I see.
Yeah, and I worked at Grant Medical Center and Riverside Methodist Hospital that are both owned by Ohio Health. And, I was starting from scratch again. It was building a practice. It was interacting with the medical staff, communicating with the doctors on the medical staff, teaching residents that rotated with us, helping each other do operations. We built a pretty solid group, all focused on GI surgery. I think we had 5 or 6 surgeons in the group. And all of the surgeons were extremely well trained. I mean, they were the top people out of Ohio State and Ohio Health at the time. And we just had a fabulous time. And what was amazing in 1990, Dr. Carey was visiting Paris, France, and I was sitting in the surgeon's lounge one day, and he called me, and told me, he said, I needed to learn how to do this gallbladder operation laparoscopically in 1990. And he was right. And so we were in the community hospital and there was nobody in Columbus doing it. So we basically started doing it and trained ourselves, high quality, made sure everything was all right, had an IRB, had it approved, and took it forward. And if I was at Ohio State, that never would have happened. It never would have happened.
And do you think they wouldn't have taken a chance on a new technique like that?
Well, I think, everything was upside down at that time. It wasn't driven by academics. It was driven by community practice. And, it wasn't driven, for advancing the science. It was driven because everyone thought it was a better way to do it. I mean, but it hadn't been proven yet.
Right.
So we had an IRB approved protocol. We did it. And we reported our first 100 cases. It was published in the Annals of Surgery. And Jeff Peters and I did that manuscript together. Jeff Peters was one of our partners, and we had the artist from Johns Hopkins actually did the drawings for us. And now, and then we went on to develop. We had a fellowship, and we had people come in that were really learned and very gifted at laparoscopy. So that when the time came for a new division chief at Ohio State, given what was going on in our community, they wanted someone that could bring that technology to them. And so I said, fine. So we went there. And here's another piece of advice. If you move somewhere, take a team with you, never go alone. And so I took our team with us. We went to Ohio State. We moved the practices there, and it was amazing experience. We did all the laparoscopy. We eventually set up the MIS Center, Minimum Invasive Surgery Center at Ohio State. Had a fellowship, but also all the residents were highly trained in laparoscopic skills. Had a skilled center. Eventually, we were able to get it certified by the college, and so that was just a fabulous work and an opportunity that presented itself because you're a capable, well-respected clinical surgeon.
And Chris, do you feel that, just to take this, so really you went out into the community, you learned this new technique, got it to a good place. Now you're back into academics. And as you said, laparoscopy was something that maybe it went more from community to academics, whereas many things have gone the other way. Do you see many innovative things in your experience that have gone that direction, or was that just an anomaly of laparoscopy going in that direction?
I think it might be an anomaly, but I'm not sure. But I mean, my opinion, my experience, I think it was an anomaly, and I don't really know why, but it happened that way. And I think that sometimes in academics, the faculty were more conservative and less willing to adopt new techniques. For example, when endoscopy came out and was developed, surgeons turned their back on it and didn't really want to do it. And that was a mistake. During my training, Dr. Carey said, this is before the board, he said, everybody has to learn endoscopy. And so I did 6 months in the GI medicine service during my training and did colonoscopy and upper endoscopy. And now we know that when surgeons finish their practice, and if they go into community practice, their most common operations and procedures are endoscopy and colonoscopy. And so, really, it's a very important part of practice of surgery. But I think that that's just an example of how sometimes in the academic world, we can be sometimes slower to adopt newer technologies. Now, the opposite is true with endovascular surgery, which is very, I think, was pushed by the academic departments more than the community hospitals. And it was, done in a very orderly and successful way. And, obviously has now become the way that most of the vascular procedures are done. And I think robotics is probably more so academic, or at least large community hospitals are the driver with those technologies as well.
Chris, just to focus a little bit on the extent as a surgical leader in your chair years, what stands out from those years? What would you like to? What lessons did you learn? What were some of the leadership lessons that you think would be worthy for our participants today?
Well, I think, when I went to Ohio State, my goal was not to be the chair of surgery. My goal was to be the division chief of general surgery and build a strong division, and then help the department be a great department, and figure out how we could solve that and help the administration that was in the department do that. And then as time went on, I was in the right place at the right time and had the right credentials. And, people said, why don't you put your hat in the ring to be the chair? And, there's always a lot of politics with those things, but I was delighted to get that opportunity. And I did it for, as an interim for a year. And then we had a new dean come in, and he agreed with appointing me as the chair. And that came with a assignment, which is really how I got interested in upper level administration. I mean, beyond being a chair, but at that time, our practice plans were independent practice plans through the entire university. And his challenge to me was he wanted me to merge all the practice plans into a single one. And Mo, I know that that is not an easy task.
It's a lot of convincing to do.
Anyway, so I found myself in that situation, and I learned how to negotiate that change and move that change through the university. It took a while, but it took a while, but the faculty was stable and the merger was successful. And so leading a department of surgery, I not only focused on the quality and the outcomes, which, we were grateful for the NSQIP that came along and really helped our department in the quality. We had great faculty we recruited. We kept building stronger divisions. And then, my motto was, I'm going to hire people that are better than me. And that's how you make a good department. And so we basically worked on that. And then, eventually we merged the practice plans, and then really everything took off. And once the practice plans merged, then the divisions wanted to become departments. So it's just everything took on a life of its own. And so we created a department of orthopedics, a department of neurosurgery, department of urology, department of plastic surgery out of our divisions. Now, yes. I didn't, I wanted to do that. I could see that was the right way to go. And I was able to convince the institution and the university, once we met the university guidelines, the number of faculty, the endowment, the finances, et cetera, that we'd be able to move in that direction. So I think that a lot of it for me was on the job training, to be honest with you. I don't have an MBA. I put in the hours working at my desk and at the hospital, and in what I called the war room, which was in the dean's office, where you went and had your negotiations and helped build the university's medical practices. So I think that that's how I got interested in higher level administration. Was really, it was an opportunity that presented itself, and I never tried to do anything just for me. I think that I did it for the organization because I thought it was the right thing to do. But I didn't do it for me because it gave me more power or more control or anything else, or more satisfaction. It was just, I thought it was the right thing to do.
And that's kind of brings me to my next question, which is, what was kind of your guiding light, your value system that guided you through leadership for all those years and maybe beyond that? Was there a single, you've just mentioned kind of the concept of it wasn't for you. Were there other principles that you were following, other values that were important to you as a leader?
Well, I think the primary driver was to put the patient first all the time, and to heal all with skill and trust. I mean, the motto of the college. And so that was ingrained in me from the time I was a mid-level resident, that's the primary consideration for a surgeon. I think that in terms of leadership, I think basically to me it's common sense things. It's treating others well, common civility, providing respect, providing a safe environment, listening more than you talk. How I've just seen so many leaders just talk so much that they, like I am right now, I'm probably talking too much.
But this is your time to talk. This is perfect.
They talk so much that they just put everybody off, and they don't hear all the great ideas that are coming out. And so, early on, I learned that, if I just listen more, I'll get so many great ideas that we can grow and help other people develop. And so that was I think a very important lesson. And then I also learned that you have to reward people, and it's not always about the money. It's about giving them opportunities and recognition. And so if you do that, you can build a team that is much more successful in an organization. And then things, a lot of the things that happened along the way on my journey, I had no idea they were going to happen. We identified researchers that we hired. We developed a model where we were a clinical organization. That was our primary. We were known for clinical surgery, and I said, well, we can't be an academic department on clinical surgery alone. So we have to come up with a model to support education, to support research and clinical surgery. So we developed educational programs, leaders in those programs, and that they interacted with the students and the residents. And then we developed our core pods of a research effort. Transplant immunology, cancer, molecular biology. We developed labs around those areas, hired PhDs to do that, and linked the PhDs with the MDs who were doing the clinical work in that area. And, it took off. The model worked. We were very successful. Thank goodness. A lot of people benefited from it, including the university and a lot of patients.
Thank you for sharing that. That's one that, I want to make sure that I leave time for, your experience of the last year, which I'm sure has been a significant experience as the president of the American College. So I want to ask you, how has the year been? What have been some of the highlights of this past year? And where do you see, we'll get to, where do you see the direction of surgery in the college? But first, how's the year been, and what stood out for you?
Well, I think it's been a fabulous year, and I wish that everybody had the opportunity to do this. It's wonderful representing the largest surgical organization in the world, and as basically representing the American College of Surgeons as their ambassador, basically, when you go to the international meetings or you go to the chapters or you speak at a variety of different venues. So I went on 20 trips this past year. I actually started in July and August of 2022 as the president-elect. I went to the Arkansas chapter of the American College of Surgeons. Charlie Mabry asked me to go there. And then Era Feinstein asked me to go to the Arizona chapter in August. Arizona in August, I would not recommend. It's a little warm, but actually I was there during the monsoon season. So it rained so hard that the roads would get washed out, but it was a wonderful thing. And during my trips, I've been on I went to 5 international trips, and the rest were either chapters or some named lectures at universities. So I think that the thing that I learned is that surgeons throughout the world, no matter where, are committed to the values of the college, to heal all with skill and trust, to our professionalism, to promoting the highest quality of surgical care for our patients, to measure the outcomes, and to treat our patients with respect, dignity, and recognizing their individuality. Now, that is a true observation that I made in South Korea, the Philippines, Japan, Australia, and Egypt. And I spent a considerable amount of time in all of those places, not only at the meetings, but also visiting the communities and seeing how the surgeons cared for the communities. And let me give you some examples.
Please.
So the Philippines, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you know how many islands there are in the archipelago of the Philippines?
No, no, I don't.
There are 7,000, over 7,000.
Wow.
So when you're talking rural in the Philippines, you're talking rural. And they're spread out, and it's hard to get from one part of that country to another. And the people there are absolutely wonderful. And the Philippine College of Surgeons, which is modeled, templated after the American College of Surgeons, they have their meeting along with the Philippine chapter of the American College of Surgeons, and they sponsored what they called Surgery Day. And they had such a backlog of cases built up from COVID that they didn't know really how to manage them. And so they had Surgery Day, where they would, periodically, they would have a day, 200 surgeons at 200 different organizations would do operations. They started at 9 o'clock in the morning at the same time. They worked till 5 o'clock of the day, no charges for the patients. And the surgeons gave their time, the hospitals gave their time, and they kept doing this until they caught up in the backlog. And they called it Surgery Day. And I thought that was amazing, that they did that for their community. And the other thing that I learned was in Australia. Have you been to Australia?
I have not, no.
Oh, okay. So I think they treat the Aboriginal people with incredible dignity and respect. I hadn't really seen anything like it. They begin every meeting with a acknowledgement that the Aboriginal people took care of the land for 5,000 years, and they were honored to be able to use that land and participate in the future development of the land as time has changed, and respect the Aboriginal culture and honor their forefathers, people in the past, the people in the present, the people in the future. And if you look at it, it's very different than the way that we've handled our Native Americans, for example. And it was amazing. And in fact, at the opening ceremony, they had, so the president opened the ceremony, and then the next person that spoke was an Aboriginal leader. dressed in Aboriginal attire, making a prayer to the organization, and also to the Australasia College of Surgeons. So, and that, that was amazing. And I hope to share some pictures at the governor's meeting this year about how that went. But I mean, that I had no idea that was going to happen. And I learned so much from them. And I was always also impressed with the degree of robotic implementation in all of these countries, including Egypt. And so I think, robotics is here to stay. And, what I saw.
As you went around, all the countries that you mentioned, so it sounds like all of them did have robotic technology.
They were all involved with robotics. South Korea, definitely. Japan, absolutely. Philippines, probably maybe a little bit less, but interested in expanding. Australia, very interested and very involved there. Egypt, I mean, they're looking for less expensive equipment, but still they have a lot of robotic units installed in all of those countries. So I was very impressed with that. But I think the thing that impressed me most is the commitment of the surgeons to doing what's best for the community.
So in that respect, you feel that the values you saw in surgeons from all of these different countries, it seems like there's a lot of resemblance, that there's a lot of commonality between surgeons from different countries.
Absolutely. And they, they really respect the values of the American College of Surgeons. And they that's why they are members of the American College of Surgeons. They're fellows of the American College of Surgeons, because their values are aligned with the values of the college. And so the American College of Surgeons is the largest surgical organization in the world, almost 90,000 members. 12,000 of those, give or take a few, are international. So we have a large international contingent of fellows throughout, in almost every country of the world. So I think it goes that the shadow of the college is long, and it has impacts everywhere. Now I didn't get to go to Africa as some of the other presidents have. Some of these other places, I was not in any European countries, although I hopefully get to go in the future. But I think I was very impressed with the countries that I did visit. Equally, I was very impressed with the chapters that I visited. Each one was fun, engaging, and without the chapters, all the work is done at the local level.
Yes.
And the chapters make the college what it is today. And because, when you have 68 domestic chapters and another 60 or so international chapters, I may have those numbers a little bit off, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, there's a lot of work being done by a lot of people. And together, Surgeons United, which is the theme of the college this year, can do a lot more to promote the values of the college and to help our patients. So I think that's been the learning experience that I had.
Thank you for sharing that. And Chris, I want to ask you, you've been in the surgical world since the 80s, and as you look backwards, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen? And I may ask you also afterwards, maybe a look forwards, what do you see? And obviously none of us have a crystal ball, but just both in your role as president of the American College and also as someone who's been in the surgical world for all these years. But let's first look backwards. What have been some of the biggest things that you've seen? And I also will say to our participants, please feel free to put questions in the Q&A or in the chat box. But please, changes that you've seen through your career in surgery.
Well, I think there are probably 4 major changes that I've seen, maybe 5. The first was endoscopy and colonoscopy. And I alluded to that a little bit during my training. I was, we were involved, all of us were involved with doing those procedures. And fortunately, surgeons through SAGES basically were able to be involved with doing endoscopy and colonoscopy. And I think a lot of that is due to SAGES and the work of Jeff Ponsky. And then I think the next big thing that came along was laparoscopy. So that kind of took, we've already alluded to it, it kind of took the surgical world by surprise, and was really driven by the community sector, and, began in Paris, France, and then, moved rapidly from there throughout the world. And then, surgeons are all innovators. So basically you get an idea to that you can, I might be able to do this operation laparoscopically now once I got the gallbladder mastered. And you could see that different operations picked up after that, and the technology kind of evolved based on what people needed. So I think that's the number two. I think three is endovascular. And although I'm not a vascular surgeon, I was the chair of surgery when endovascular was introduced, and I was amazed. We worked with the hospital to get hybrid rooms and hire faculty that were gifted at doing endovascular procedure, obviously well-trained. And then I think from an education standpoint, endovascular has now created a problem in that nobody knows how to do open aneurysm repairs. And that when an open aneurysm now comes in, it's going to be complicated, difficult to do. They may have already had an endovascular procedure and now they have a leak and a recurrence or whatever, and there's not anybody to do it. So I think that, having simulation models around open aneurysm repair is critical. I think the fourth is robotics. And I think that robotics is an amazing development. And we did our first robotic operation at Ohio State in 1999. It was a cardiac procedure. Rob Mitchler did it. I may have been a mitral valve repair or something like that. But it was an amazing operation. And robotics is here to stay. I can just tell you. I'm 73. I'm probably too old to start sitting at the console and learning how to do robotics. If I was younger, I would be spending a couple days a week, learning.
You don't see that going backwards. Obviously, there's still people who predict the demise of it, but you don't see that going backwards.
I don't see it because I think it's actually easier than laparoscopy. The surgeon is sitting down, so it's ergonomically helpful for the surgeon. You don't get that little kyphosis that most surgeons have from leaning over the operating room table. And plus you can see so well, and the anastomoses are they look so beautiful when you get done. And, I think overall, the cost may be a little bit higher. I don't know. I think the complications are probably the same, but the overall satisfaction is greater for the surgeon to do it robotically. And I think it's a great equalizer. So
and this is a question I want to ask you, and I apologize, I interrupted you a little bit, but just from a surgical education standpoint. So so you've just mentioned 4 huge evolutions in your career as a surgeon. What would your advice be to surgical educators? How do we prepare learners for this massive evolution that they will go through potentially in their 30 years or 40 years in surgery? And what advice would you give to a surgeon as to how do you ride this ride? How do you evolve with this massive evolution that can happen, which really at this moment we don't know what 30 years from now is going to bring in the world of surgery?
Well, I would say the advice to the young learner, the young surgeon, is to be curious and when you see something new, evaluate it and learn about it. And you will know if something looks like it's going to be successful. Tell me, when you saw your first laparoscopic cholecystectomy, did you say, wow, I have to learn how to do this? Exactly. So that's the kind of thing. And when the first endovascular stents were done, that was the same thing. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future. The technology is obviously there. The robotics instrumentation might get miniaturized, maybe smaller. We may not need such big operating rooms. I have no idea. But whatever comes the way, it will be incredible. And so I think that having students and learners that are capable of professional development, having professional curiosity, the ability to learn on their own is critical. And what's even more critical is to have organizations such as the American College of Surgeons be ready to pick up and give educational courses on new technology when it becomes indicated, so that we do not repeat the occurrences that we had with laparoscopy, where you had all these small courses that were going on. And I think that having the Division of Education be responsible for that, and the educational institutes, is great, because they can pick up a lot of these activities as they come along and provide, I think, really well-developed curricular-based learning. So I think that curiosity and solid organizational opportunities for education and learning are critical. Now, I think I missed a big one, and that's early recovery pathways. ERAS is unbelievable, and I think that will continue. We're all learning how to best apply those techniques. I'm not sure you're aware of the study from the Cleveland Clinic in Florida about outpatient colon and rectal surgery. That's pretty amazing.
No, I wasn't. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think that there are a lot of things that we can learn. So it's not just technology. It's technology. It's how we treat disease. It's immune checkpoint inhibitors for a variety of different cancers. So surgeons have to be on top of everything, because everything's not cured with a knife, or might be cured through a different operation, or might be cured with a medication. So I think surgeons have to know everything. It's not just about the technology. It's about applying what's best to our patients. And we all know that the best surgeons are the surgeon that knows when to operate and when not to operate.
Chris, I want to make sure I see one question, and I want to make sure I leave a little bit of time about some of the educational activity, and my apologies to our participants for just in the 7 minutes or 6 minutes that we have left. I want to make sure to get to the Academy and also the Blue Ribbon committee that you are chairing, and I want to make sure that we leave time for you to talk a little bit about the Blue Ribbon Committee.
Great. Well, I think this is really a passionate thing, and probably one of the most important things that I've done during this past year is to work with Steve Stain. Steve is the president of the American Surgical Association, and he and I last September agreed at a think tank at the American Board of Surgery on EPAs that we would lead a second Blue Ribbon Committee. And so we reached out to Dr. Sachdeva and Dr. Turner and received their blessing, and they're participating in the steering committee, the Blue Ribbon Committee, to really move this out. So we looked at the original paper that was written in 2005, published in Annals of Surgery, and looked at what their recommendations, and we found that there were a lot of things that happened, and that the recommendations were accomplished, particularly areas where we had control. But some of the other areas, there was opportunities for further expansion. So we currently have a committee that we've reestablished. We have 8 subgroups or subcommittees. The total number of surgeons on the panel is about 60, and we cover the whole gamut: medical student education, resident education, training of surgical scientists, transition to practice, faculty development, newer methodologies in education, including AI and simulation. We have specialty consultants that can help us analyze and fit those items into our final recommendations. So we've been working for a little over a year, and we actually did begin our formal work in January. And we have an in-person meeting at the ACS offices in Chicago in mid-November. And we have a couple other town hall meetings with the whole Blue Ribbon Committee to finalize kind of our final documents. And then we'll make some recommendations at the American Surgical Association in April. So I think that our goal is to be bold, to make recommendations. We're not going to lay out blueprints for implementation, but we're going to lay out opportunities for improvement. How can we help and enhance the young surgeon that's training to be a better surgeon, technically and professionally? And I think that we will uncover, I think, some really great ideas in this. And the group of people we put together, I don't have the list in front of me, but you will all be familiar with all the people that are involved. So that is a major work effort. And again, it can't be done without the support of the college and the Division of Education, the academy, and the staff. Really appreciate that.
Great. Thank you. And that's going to be, so for anyone listening to this, that's the plan is culmination by the American Surgical Association meeting in the spring.
Right, in April.
Chris, this has been an amazing conversation, and I want to ask you any final pieces of advice or pearls of wisdom that you have for those who are with us tonight and those who will be watching this recording later.
Well, well, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for your expertise in terms of interviewing. And Dr. Sachdeva, thank you for the invitation. I greatly appreciate it. So I think I've talked enough. I'd love to get some of the questions, if there are some in the chat, to hear what people say. I think the final comment is do the right thing all the time. Put your patients first, and take care of your family.
Thank you so much. And I think we're at time, so I may turn it over to Dr. Sachdeva for closing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shabahang, and let me express my sincere thanks to Dr. Ellison for what has been a phenomenal fireside chat. Dr. Ellison, you have shared your own career path with us, and there's so many learning pearls that we have picked up as to how you progressed and how you have come to be the successful, preeminent leader that you are. And we have much to learn from your experience. You have shared a lot of wisdom for the young people, how to get ahead, what to avoid, what to embrace, how to look at opportunities differently. You've emphasized the role of educators, the fact that it is very difficult to be a real busy clinician and a super R01 funded researcher at the same time. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. And I might add, it's also difficult to do big time education at the highest level. All these are very, very distinct endeavors, and it's the whole department that needs to be that triple threat instead of an individual. And you've emphasized that beautifully. You've talked about your experiences during your presidency, visiting various countries, looking at cultures, the commonalities, and how much people value the American College of Surgeons and appreciate the forward thinking of the college and the leadership of the college worldwide. And then you've shared some of your vision in regard to what has happened as the major events in the progression of surgery and where the opportunities lie. And all this goes to emphasize, and I'm mentioning this primarily for the young people who are on with us this evening and who will watch this recording, that the best is truly ahead of us. And I think we all need to be very grateful for the opportunities that we have had. You've underscored that repeatedly, Dr. Ellison, and really look forward to something that's going to be even better and leaving behind a world that is better than what we inherited. So thank you for those very, very wise words and those messages. And we really appreciate you spending this time with us this evening. Thank you, Dr. Shebhang, for the usual wonderful job as a moderator. You are a true pro at this. I'd like to thank all the attendees for being here with us this evening, and also welcome people who will watch this recording for many months to come. And finally, a sincere thanks to our staff, our wonderful staff, without whom we couldn't do anything in our division. Dr. Patrice Blair, our Associate Director, and then the two core staff members of the Academy, Kate Kimmick, who is very new as a manager, has done a phenomenal job in the short time she's been here, and Ms. Caroline Forker, who's been with us a little shy of a year, and again has done a phenomenal job during the short time she's been here. And for those of you who have put in questions in the chat we haven't been able to get to, we will pull them together and send them to Dr. Ellison, and perhaps Dr. Ellison, you'd be willing to answer those questions. So I know there are some questions in the chat, and someone just asked what would happen to those. Rest assured, we will get them to Dr. Ellison, and thank you, Dr. Ellison, for your willingness to take the time to answer those questions. So thank you all, and have a wonderful night, evening, wherever you are, or morning if you are in the European area and elsewhere in the world. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.